Hi everyone, welcome to Elite Tutorials. If you're not a part of Elite Tutorials and want the images of the textbook, you can call us on 9699599299 and we shall send the images to you. I'm sure all of you all have seen the video wherein we had started with the first part where we spoke about pure substances and in detail about elements and compounds. Today we'll be talking more about mixtures. Right, so we know mixtures come into the category of impure substances, right? So let's start with our today's topic, that is mixtures. Now in mixtures, as we had said in compounds, the components are mixed in a fixed proportion and they undergo a chemical change. So in mixtures, here the constituent elements are mixed in any ratio, so they do not have a fixed ratio and they are mixed in, and because they are not and they do not undergo a chemical change, so they would not be the properties are not lost. Okay, so now I give you two examples before we start off with mixtures. One example of a mixture, if I say salt in water, and the second example is oil in water. Now both of them are considered as mixtures, but now when we consider salt in water, what happens is salt dissolves in water and it disappears in water, right? In the last video I had discussed that, see, salt and water, both of them are pure substances. So I'm mixing these pure substances, but when we mix two pure substances, it does not mean that we are going to get a pure substance again, right? Okay, why salt and water is considered a mixture? Because over here you're mixing two different substances, but now the salt has completely dissolved in water and it's got uniformly mixed in the water. So even if I take a spoon of the salty water from the top or from the bottom, it's going to taste salty. Means salt has completely got dissolved in water and got uniformly mixed. That's case number one. What about case number two? I told you oil and water. Now when I mix oil and water does not mix. So I can see after some time a layer of oil which is floating on the surface of the water. Here I can say oil is not mixed uniformly with water. So basically that brings us to the main categories or main two types of mixtures that we need to know before we go in much more detail about mixtures. The first one is called as homogeneous mixtures and second one is called as heterogeneous mixtures. So mixtures broadly are classified into two categories called homogeneous and heterogeneous. In homogeneous mixtures, the components are uniformly mixed. So possibly you might not be able to see all the components because they are completely mixed in it, right? A simple example being salt in water, sugar in water can be categorized as a homogeneous mixture. Okay, also to a category when we talk about alloys. So in alloys, what will happen is all the solids have been melted, the metals have been melted and they are mixed uniformly to give us an alloy. So all of that comes in the category of homogeneous mixtures. But when we talk about heterogeneous mixtures, we can say in heterogeneous mixtures the particles are not uniformly mixed. So they would be seen as two layers depending upon what is the physical state. So when we're talking about two liquids, if the two liquids have not mixed with each other, they form layers, right? Or else if I talk about a heterogeneous mixture, it would be differing in color, right, size and shape. Okay, so that is homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures. So before we start talking about the properties of mixtures, I'm sure you know what mixtures are. Mixtures, the main thing we say that two or more pure substances are mixed together and here the ratio is not fixed, right? And they would be having their, or they retain their properties, okay, original properties. So let's see how do we go about in detail with the characteristics of mixtures. So I'm sure everybody is very clear with the definition of mixture, homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures. Let's come down to the first characteristic of mixtures. As I told you, mixtures fall into the category of impure substances, right? Okay, so we can either call them as, we divide matter as pure substances and mixtures, or pure substances or impure substances. So we can categorize mixtures as impure substances, okay? Now even for the matter when we are mixing two pure substances, it still gives us an impure substance. Why? Because here you have taken two different substances mixed together. The second point over here, it has no fixed composition, means Over here, I am not mixing the two components in a fixed ratio. Okay, so just imagine, I tell everybody take a glass of water and add salt into it. Okay, so everybody takes a glass of water. Now I have not specified the size of the glass, I have not specified the quantity of the salt to be added, right? So now what will happen is everybody would make a mixture of salt water. What remains constant is everybody is making a salt solution, but some solutions might be more salty, some solutions might be less salty, some might have more amount of salt, less amount of water, more amount of water, less amount of salt. So we cannot generalize, okay, because I haven't given the quantities. So therefore all of us have made a salt solution, but the composition is not fixed. Why? Because we are not mixing them in a fixed ratio. So that is how mixtures are. So mixtures have no fixed proportion. So the elements or the components are mixed in any ratio. Okay. So even for that matter, when you are making or when you are having some kind of roadside chart, okay, now that is not possible right now, okay, but maybe an example of bhel. Okay, so somebody might prefer a tikha bhel, somebody might prefer a meetha bhel. Okay, so again the composition is not remaining the same. So similarly, we say in a mixture the composition does not remain the same because the components are mixed in any ratio. Okay, so in mixtures you say they are mixed in any ratios, whereas when we studied about compounds, the ratio by it was in a fixed ratio and also fixed proportion by weight. We had discussed that in the last video. Okay, so I'm sure everybody has understood the first and the second point. Okay, so with that we have finished the first point and the second point. So that is any ratio. So they are mixed in any ratio. We also understood homogeneous and heterogeneous. Okay, now they have no specific set of properties. Now what do you mean by no specific set of properties? Okay, let's take a very simple example. We are trying to mix iron and sulfur. Okay, so let's do this, let's compare this, and we can also quickly revise what we studied in compounds. Okay, so what do I do is I take iron. Okay, so iron filings or small parts of iron. Okay, so those are called as iron filings. Now iron filings are mixed with sulfur powder. Okay, so sulfur is yellow in color, so iron filings and sulfur powder are both mixed together. Now this is iron and sulfur mixture, right? Okay, now what do I do is I run a magnet over it. As soon as I run a magnet over it, iron is going to get attracted to the magnet and sulfur is not going to get attracted. Means iron and sulfur, both of them have retained their original properties, right? So they don't have any new set of properties. Okay, if also you understand sulfur is soluble in a solvent called carbon disulfide. So if I take iron and sulfur, okay, and I dissolve and I add carbon disulfide, the sulfur part gets dissolved. Means the properties have been retained. Okay, so there are no new properties that have been added into the mixture. But if I take iron and sulfur and I heat it, it undergoes a chemical change, forming iron sulfide compound. Okay, now if I run a magnet over iron sulfide compound, it's not going to get attracted to the magnet, right? Nor is it going to be soluble in carbon disulfide. Means the properties are no longer retained. That was what we studied in compound. But in a mixture, they do not have any new set of properties. Why? Because they retain their original properties. So I can also say they retain original properties. Perfect? Yes, so therefore they have no new set of properties that have been introduced. Okay, now basically since we say no new properties have been introduced, we can call that as a physical change, because the chemical composition is not getting changed over here and the properties are also not changed. So we can categorize a formation of a mixture as a physical change, and it is much more easier to separate them also. So it is an easy reversible or a temporary change. So basically when we talk about a mixture, we say mixture is, or else the characteristics of mixture can be categorized as a physical change. So I'm sure everybody has understood the first 4 points. First point, I said mixtures are impure substances. Second point, they are mixed in any proportion, so the components are mixed in any ratio. Third point, they retain, the constituent elements retain their original properties. Okay, so when you're writing all this in your exam, make sure that if you're writing 3 points, have some kind of example to also explain your points, right? So that might fetch you more marks, okay? Or else if you're just specifying, or in school they might ask you to specify the characteristics, so you can specify the characteristics. Or basically to, if it's a long answer, if it's a 3-mark answer, so you can write the points with a supporting example. The example may not be like too lengthy, but short and precise. Okay, now when we come down to the next point, we say mixtures can be homogeneous or heterogeneous. Mostly we say all mixtures are heterogeneous, right? So basically in which the particles are not uniformly mixed. But that does not mean that mixtures cannot be homogeneous. We know quite a lot of examples of mixtures that are homogeneous. Okay, so that is all alloys are falling into the category of homogeneous mixtures, right? So basically we broadly classify mixtures as homogeneous or heterogeneous, but most mixtures come into the category of heterogeneous. So I'm sure you've understood this. Don't worry, we'll be talking about this point in much more detail. We'll be studying quite a lot of examples of the same. Now, since it's a physical change, I'm sure we all have studied the chapter 2, that is physical and chemical changes, in which we studied whenever a physical change or takes place, there's not much of heat or there's not much of energy exchange involved. So similarly, when we're talking about the formation of mixture, there's not much of energy change that is involved. Why? Because it could be randomly mixing any two substances in any ratio. So basically we say that in a mixture there is no significant energy change that has taken place. We also saw that when we were talking about interconversion of states of matter. So when a solid got converted to a liquid, there was, yes, a little bit of gain of energy, but when the reverse reaction took place, that much energy was lost. So not much or not significant large amounts of energy differences take place or energy changes take place during the formation of mixtures. Yes, so I'm sure you've understood. We come down to the last point. Mixtures can be separated by simple physical means. Okay, now very simple. If I want to separate maybe salt and water, it's quite easy. We can evaporate the water and we get back the salt. Okay, so basically the composition is not going to change. Second one, if we see something insoluble, okay, so maybe like if I have sand and water, we know sand is insoluble in water, we can let it settle down, okay, and then we just can remove the water. So basically what are we doing is we are not bringing about a chemical change. So this can be done by simple physical means, maybe like filtration, evaporation, okay. We can also use a magnet, like we said, for iron and sulfur. So that could be magnetic separation. Or you also know sublimation means interchange of states of matter. So all of these are simple physical means. Or even for that matter, hand picking can be used to separate the mixtures. Even sieving can be used for separating the mixtures, right? Filtration, winnowing, all of them come under the category of simple physical means. We are not bringing about any chemical change over here, okay? So I'm sure all of you all have understood the properties or characteristics of mixtures, right? So with that we have done mixtures. We did the two types of mixtures, that is homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures, which would be differing in the distribution of the constituents, right? And we studied the characteristics. Now we come down to the next category, that is types of mixtures. Now, what are types of mixtures? Why do we have types of mixtures? Types of mixtures would be because the constituent elements differ in their physical states. Okay, so based on this, I have written down all the possible types of mixtures that are there. So we have the first type, that is solid-solid mixture, solid-liquid mixture, liquid-liquid mixture, and we also have liquid-gas mixture and gas-gas mixture. So maybe we do not have all, first we learn the types of mixtures and then we are also going to learn how to separate the components of the mixtures. So right now we are just doing these as examples, okay? We are not going to study all of them and how to separate all of the types of mixtures, okay? So this is just a general 5 categories of mixtures. The first one, see, so we understood the 5 types which are differing in their physical states. Now what do we do is, in each we'll be learning examples, that is depending upon these 2 types. That is, for every main type of mixture, we'll be learning the homogeneous and the heterogeneous example of a homogeneous mixture and a heterogeneous mixture. Okay, so when I talk about a solid mixture, if I have the first example, that is a homogeneous mixture of a solid type mixture, and then we are going to talk about heterogeneous. When 2 components, both in the solid state, have uniformly mixed together, they fall into the category of homogeneous solid mixture. I gave you this example quite a few times. Yes, alloys fall into the category of homogeneous solid mixtures. Okay, so you can write alloys like brass, bronze. Okay, so brass is, if you want, it is a mixture of copper and zinc. Okay, so these are alloys. Okay, you also have bronze, stainless steel. So these are all names of alloys. So actually how alloys are made, see, basically all these metals exist as solids, right? So they cannot be directly mixed. So solids, the metals which of the desired means possibly of the properties of the metals are studied, and the one which are desired would be taken. Okay, so basically if we talk about stainless steel, so for stainless steel the main component becomes iron, okay, and it is mixed with a few more components. So basically what happens is iron and a few more components are all heated, means they are all melted. So when they are melted, they come down into the liquid state. Remember, you're not adding water over here. You are just heating them at a high temperature, so they all melt. Now these liquids, that is the molten metals, are mixed because that forms a homogeneous mixture, and now that's poured into the cast or molds, and on cooling they form the desired shape of the utensil, right? So that is how alloys are made. Okay, let's quickly think of an example, a heterogeneous solid mixture. So maybe 2 solids which are not mixing together. So a very simple example of that could be sand and salt, right? You can write down any example. So maybe 2 solids which don't mix with each other. Okay, so you can also say sugar and salt. Okay, coming down to the next main category, we are talking about solid liquid mixtures. So now that's the main type. Again, in that we'll be talking about homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures. So the first one in that, homogeneous mixtures, and we have the second one, that is an heterogeneous mixture. Okay, so in solid liquid, we have a solid which dissolves in liquid. Quite a few examples. Sugar dissolves in water, salt dissolves in water. Maybe if you say also sugar will dissolve, salt will dissolve, or else we take any solid that can dissolve in a liquid. Okay, so sugar in water and salt in water are quite common examples. Okay, so I say salt in water and sugar in water. Heterogeneous which do not dissolve, so maybe that's sand in water. Okay, so you are free to think on quite a few examples, okay, but make sure that the physical state of the substance of the mixture does not change over here. Okay, so the first one what we studied was solid mixture. The second one, what we are doing is solid liquid mixture. The examples are endless. Okay, so I'm just jotting down just a few. We come down to the next category. The next category is liquid liquid mixture. So you see the examples are quite simple. For homogeneous mixture, when we're talking about two liquids that mix with each other, milk mixes with water, alcohol mixes with water. So I say alcohol and water is also a liquid homogeneous mixture. But oil does not mix with water, so oil and water is an heterogeneous mixture. Right? Okay. Now when we talk about this, okay, so maybe liquid and gas. Now liquid and gas, when we are talking about an homogeneous mixture of a liquid and gas, we say carbon dioxide that is dissolved in water under pressure, that is your aerated drinks. Okay, or oxygen in water. Oxygen in water, or else carbon dioxide in water. So gases dissolved in water. So that would be an example of an homogeneous mixture. Whereas in heterogeneous mixture, you can see the gas, or you see the bubbles, that is the soap lather. Okay, so that's not uniformly mixed, so that comes under the category of heterogeneous mixtures. Okay, now few of these examples what I'm giving you. Okay, so see, listen. So basically we'll be doing broadly the main categories as solid liquid and liquid, and we'll be learning the methods of separation for them. We are not going to study much of liquid gas and gas mixtures. Okay, but just giving you quick examples. Now coming down to the last category, that is gas and gas. If it's homogeneous, remember all gases mixed. So air is a mixture of all gases. In heterogeneous, we don't actually have any example, because gases mix with each other. So gases are usually easily diffused with each other, so we don't have an example for an heterogeneous mixture. Okay, so with that we also have finished the next thing, that is the types of mixture, depending upon their physical state and whether they are uniformly mixed or not. So we had 5 broad categories: solid mixtures, solid liquid mixtures, liquid mixtures, liquid gas mixtures, and gas mixtures. Okay, so therein we studied about an homogeneous an example for an homogeneous mixture and an heterogeneous mixture. So coming down to the next category, the next topic for today's lecture, we understood what are mixtures, we understood the different types of mixtures, right? Okay, now what happens is, we say in mixtures the components are not mixed in a fixed proportion. So possibly, and mixtures also fall into the category of impure substances. So basically it's very important to separate the components of a mixture. Now sometimes separation of components of mixture becomes important. Why? Because I want a pure substance. Maybe I want to remove the impurities. So basically what happens is seawater. Now seawater is salty water, we cannot drink that. Okay, so or maybe just salt in water, we cannot drink that. Okay, so basically what happens is, where we need to purify the water. So we need to remove the impurities from the water. So basically removing impurities is removing the one of the component from the mixture. That is why separation of the components of mixtures is important to possibly get a pure substance, right? Okay, and maybe when we are separating the components of a substance, we get many more useful substances. So I'm sure you understood separation of components of the mixture is important, because we are removing the impurities. So we are getting a pure substance at the end. Second thing, when we are bringing about the separation of the components, basically we are getting many more useful components. Like, very simple, I talk about crude oil or petroleum. Now when we talk about petroleum, do not get confused, petroleum is not petrol. Okay, so petroleum is naturally occurring, which is existing as crude oil, right? Now from crude oil, we usually get different fractions when that is heated at high temperatures. So don't worry, we'll be studying about that in a little detail later. But from petroleum, I get different fractions which are called as petrol, diesel, kerosene, right? So that can be obtained only on separating the components of the mixture, right? Okay, and also when how is separation very important? Because I get a pure substance, I can remove the impurities, and I can also get useful substances. So maybe useful substances from the main mixture, right? So that's the reason separation of the components is very important. But now if I want to separate, what is the principle for separation? So how will I understand that this method has to be applied to separate this mixture? So basically we have so many different types of mixture. So how will we know which method has to be applied? What is the principle for it? What is the criteria for differentiating? Okay, so basically I want to broadly classify. Okay, so if you are a group of like 50 students, I want to classify and I want to make these 50 students into small groups, okay, because 50 is a very big group. So I need some method, or else I need some criteria to categorize these 50 students. So similarly, when I want to separate the mixtures, I also need some criteria to differentiate or to group them in certain categories, right? So that the separation becomes much more easier. So let's come down to the last topic for today's lecture, that is principles involved in the separation of the components of the mixture. The first thing, very important, we saw that when we were talking about mixtures, we could have 5 different categories of mixture, because here we spoke about the constituents and their physical states. So we say that mixtures are mainly of 5 categories. Why? Because they are differing in the constituents and their physical state. So the first point of criteria for the separation of mixtures is knowing the constituents and their physical states. That's the first point, right? Okay, so basically if it's a solid mixture, right, so I will use a certain technique. If it's a solid liquid mixture, I will use a certain technique. If it's a gas mixture, I'll use a certain technique. So I cannot use the same technique for a solid mixture, right? So knowing the physical state, that is knowing the constituents and the physical state, is the most important criteria for selecting what method of separation I'm going to use for separating the constituents of the mixture. Let's come down to the next one. We also see the difference in the size, shape and color. Okay, so this can fall into a criteria, as in I told you, if I talk about a solid mixture. Okay, so in a solid mixture, maybe like a very simple example, if I give you a difference in size, an example for that, maybe like you must have sometimes seen that when mummy is just about to make rice, she makes sure that she removes the rice in a plate and she just checks if there are stones or no, right? So if there are small stones, they are differing in size and which are easy to be removed, okay? Or possibly she might see something is not the same color as rice, so it's easy to spot, she might remove that, okay? Or sometimes you must have seen that she uses a sieve, or else for maybe like when she's making poha, okay, so she uses a sieve, so those flakes remain on top and those small powders what are there, the powder what is there will fall off. So basically what are we doing is we are using a method for separation because the particles are differing in their size, shape and color. Okay, so maybe I have a bag full of maybe crazy balls. Okay, so in that what happens is all of them are of different color. If I tell you easy to pick up the red color, it might be much more easier because they're differing in color. Okay, but there would be very slight difference in their size. Okay, so now if I ask you to separate them on their size, it will be very difficult, but separating them on color will be much more easier because that is a striking feature, right? Okay, so or else if in case of beads, I tell you to separate the beads are of just differing in their sizes a little bit. If I ask you to classify or separate them according to the size, that would be much more difficult, right? But based on their color, it would be much more easy. Okay, so that is what we need to understand, which criteria has to be used when for separation. Okay, so that is the second point. I'm sure all of us have understood the second point. The third point, when they differ in their densities. Okay, now this would be broadly when we will be talking about liquid mixtures. Okay, so maybe like if I talk about oil and water. right? Now in oil and water, what happens is we can say that oil and water differ in their densities. That's the reason if in a beaker I place oil and water will form the lower layer and oil will form the topmost layer. Okay, why? Because oil has lesser density as compared to water. So basically I can use a method of separation in which the differentiating point is what? Difference in densities, right? So because we say oil is less denser, it will form the topmost layer, and water is more denser as compared to oil will form the lower layer. So we'll be studying one method of separation based on difference in densities. The next one is difference in boiling point and melting point. So basically this would be possible when we are talking about maybe again liquid mixtures, that is they would be differing in their boiling points. When see, now I understood how to separate if it's a heterogeneous mixture, oil and water. We got an example how to, or we got an idea how to separate it. But what if I want to separate alcohol and water? So now alcohol and water, both of them differ in their boiling points, right? So basically I use a technique in which the first one, the lower boiling point gets separated out, okay, followed by the higher boiling point. So basically if I want to separate alcohol and water, the point of difference over here is, see, basically they have mixed, so I cannot talk about solubility. So I am talking, and I cannot talk about density. So what am I talking about? I am talking about difference in boiling points. So right now we are just understanding how it can be different, okay, and then we'll be studying each method in detail, okay. Okay, volatility means whether a substance is more volatile or less volatile. Volatile means which has an ability to maybe evaporate at temperatures lower than its boiling point, okay. So that's volatility. So some are more volatile, some are less volatile. So that is also difference in volatility can also be a point of difference for separation, okay. Now the next one, when we talk about solubility, okay, very simple. That could be possible for two solids. When I have a mixture of two solids, one solid is soluble in a solvent, the other solid will not be soluble in a solvent. So basically I've used the criteria of solubility to separate the two components. Maybe if I talk about sand and water, sand is insoluble in water but salt is soluble in water. So if I want to separate sand and water, it's going to be very difficult. Possibly their sizes are almost the same, that it becomes very difficult to separate the sand and the salt granule, okay. So I cannot, and the color is also cream and white, but it's very difficult to separate because the granule size are very small. So what am I doing? I don't use size, shape and color. What do? I simply can take water, and because they are differing in their solubilities, we say salt is soluble in water whereas sand is insoluble in water, so it becomes much more simpler for separating, right? So basically this is how we check which point of difference is applicable to the mixture, right? So this is how we talk about solubility. Now when I'm talking about magnetic properties, I'm sure one example has come to your mind, that is iron and sulfur. Perfect. When we talk about a mixture of iron and sulfur, I told you, if I want to separate iron and sulfur, I quickly run a magnet over the mixture. Iron will be attracted to the magnet and sulfur particles will remain in the dish, okay. So basically I've used a magnetic property to separate the different components of the mixture. Now also the next one, I'm sure because we've studied this in chapter 1, it is much more easy to understand, that is ability to sublimation. So maybe if I talk about ammonium chloride, which is a sublimable solid, and sodium chloride, that's common salt. If I want to separate both of them, remember both of them are white powders, okay. So by color they look similar. Shape and size, they are crystals, so they also look similar. So what I do is over here, because I know ammonium chloride is a sublimable solid, we can heat the mixture, okay. So when I heat the mixtures, ammonium chloride undergoes sublimation and I get back these vapors, and which will be condensing and giving me back the ammonium chloride, okay, and sodium chloride will remain in the evaporating dish. We'll be studying this in much more detail as we study the methods of separation. So right now I'm just giving you an idea. So see, it's not difficult, it's quite easy. So I'm sure you're understanding which method is to be applied. And coming down to the last one, ability to diffuse. Okay, this would be precisely for gas mixtures. Okay, now if we talk about hydrogen and oxygen. So out of hydrogen and oxygen, hydrogen is a lighter gas and oxygen is a heavier gas. So basically, if I pass these gases through a partition, hydrogen being the lighter component or being less denser is going to pass through the partition faster, porous partition faster as compared to oxygen. So basically, I can separate a heavier or a lighter or less denser gas from a more denser gas by using difference in diffusion or ability to diffuse. Okay, we don't have much of this in detail, but these are just the points. Okay, so not all points are going to be applied in the methods of separation. So I'm sure you have understood in today's lecture what we spoke about. We spoke about mixtures, we spoke about the types of mixtures, we spoke about the properties of mixtures. Then we studied the different types differing in their physical states and also in homogeneity, that is homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures. We also understood why it is very important to separate the components of the mixture and the basic principles of separation. Okay, so in the next video we'll be studying the methods, right? Okay, so till then you can go through that. So we have finished just before the methods. So we finished the topic that is still principles involved in separation of components of mixtures. Make sure you read well, right? Okay, and if you want to make a note of this, you can quickly make a note of this once the video is over. Okay, so we'll meet soon in the next video and we'll be starting with the methods of separation. Till then, thank you everybody.